They thought he was just another old man, a slow, shuffling shadow drifting through a sleepy town. How could they have known? When the cashier jabbed her accusing finger and the officer snapped those cold, unforgiving handcuffs around his wrists, no one blinked. No one questioned it. No one dared to look closer. But oh, what a shock awaited them. Just 30 minutes later, four black SUVs screeched into the station, their engines roaring like a storm. Agents in crisp black suits leapt out, saluting the very man they'd tossed into a cell like yesterday's trash. Can you imagine the officers' faces when they realized they hadn't just nabbed a harmless nobody, they'd shackled a silent legend and trampled a lifetime of unseen sacrifice? This isn't just a tale of a blunder. It's a gut punch about what slips through our fingers when we stop listening and what shines through when we finally open our eyes. Welcome to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where compassion and kindness weave the threads of every narrative. So, what really happened that day? Let's dive in. Picture this, the afternoon sun draping Millstone, Virginia, in a warm, golden haze. A tiny town where everyone knows your name, where the juiciest gossip might be Mrs. Callahan's cat vanishing for a day. Nothing wild ever happens here, or so they thought. It's the kind of place where peace hums through the air like a lullaby, fragile and sweet. But doesn't it only take one spark to set everything ablaze? Officer Kyle Morgan sat in his cruiser along Main Street, sipping lukewarm coffee from a chipped thermos that felt as worn as his nerves. 3 months on the job, and he still couldn't shake the feeling he was borrowing someone else's life. Beside him, Sergeant Tom Reeves lounged, sunglasses perched on his nose, sizing up the world with a squint that could cut glass. "Slow day," Kyle muttered, desperate to fill the quiet. "Good. That's how we like it," Reeves shot back, barely glancing his way. The radio buzzed faintly, a soft heartbeat under the stillness. Kyle watched life unfold outside, a kid pedaling his bike, an old couple hand in hand, teens goofing off by the diner. Perfect, right? But how long could perfection last? Inside Henderson's grocery, an elderly man named Samuel Whitaker shuffled down the canned goods aisle. To the townsfolk, he was a ghost, a quiet figure in a weathered cabin on the edge of Millstone. Military, maybe? Whispers floated, but no one knew for sure. Sam didn't spill secrets. He tipped his hat, paid his tab, and faded back into the shadows. Who was he really? Today, he grabbed a loaf of bread, a carton of milk, and a can of beef stew, his hands moving with a precision that hinted at something deeper, something trained, deliberate, almost sacred. As Sam approached the register, a young guy ahead of him fumbled his wallet. It hit the floor with a whisper, unnoticed by its owner, who was already bolting out the door. Sam bent down, slowly, carefully, and picked it up. "Son," he started, his voice a gravelly murmur. But before he could finish, Cindy, the jittery new cashier, pounced. "Hey," she snapped. "Put that down." Sam blinked, thrown off. "I was just," he began, but Cindy wasn't hearing it. She hauled over Mr. Hal Briggs, the store manager, who dialed the cops faster than you could say, mistake. Back in the cruiser, the radio crackled to life, possible theft in progress, and Kyle's heart jolted. Reeves flipped on the lights with a gruff, "Let's roll." They screeched into Henderson's in minutes, the bell above the door jingling like a warning chime. Briggs pointed straight at Sam, his voice trembling, "That's him, tried to steal that wallet." Sam stood there, wallet dangling awkwardly in his grip, his face calm but weary. Was this really a thief? Kyle's gut twisted, something felt off. But Reeves charged ahead, barking, "Sir, turn around. Hands behind your back." Sam's low, steady voice cut through, "There's a misunderstanding," but Reeves wasn't having it. "Turn around now." Sam obeyed, silent and unresisting, as Kyle clicked the cuffs shut, a sick feeling pooling in his chest. What were they missing? At the station, they processed him like any petty crook. Reeves flung Sam's tattered army jacket onto a bench and shoved him into the holding cell. Kyle hovered by the glass, staring at the old man sitting there, still, composed, radiating a quiet strength that screamed louder than any protest. You know, Reeves sneered, stealing a wallet's a serious crime. Sam didn't flinch, didn't reply. Kyle turned away, reaching for the jacket to log Sam's stuff. That's when his fingers grazed it, a hidden pocket. Inside, a badge gleamed, heavy, etched with an eagle and United States Special Forces. Clearance Alpha. His breath caught. Sarge, he yelled, panic spiking. Reeves ambled over, squinting at it. What the hell is that? He muttered, smirk gone. They dug into Sam's wallet, no cards, just an ancient military ID that looked like it belonged in a museum. Better call it in, Reeves said, voice tight. Kyle dialed the number on the ID, hands shaking. Agent Daniel Cross, FBI, a voice snapped. Officer Kyle Morgan, Millstone PD. We've got a Samuel Whitaker in custody, alleged theft. Silence. Then, sharp, repeat that name. Samuel Whitaker. A longer pause. Secure your station. Don't speak to him. Don't question him. Team's coming. 30 minutes. The line went dead. Kyle whispered, who the hell did we just arrest? Reeves just stared, jaw clenched. From the cell, Sam's calm voice floated out, you boys might want to make some fresh coffee. It's gonna be a long afternoon. Chills raced down Kyle's spine. What had they stumbled into? The station turned suffocating, every tick of the clock a hammer blow. Kyle paced, Reeves leaned hard against the wall, both stealing glances at Sam, unmoving, serene, like he'd seen this movie before. You think he's dangerous? Kyle hissed. Reeves shook his head, not dangerous, Kyle. Then what? The rumble of engines hit like thunder. Kyle bolted to the window, for black SUVs, sleek and menacing, rolled in. Agents spilled out, fanning across the lot like they owned it. The lead agent, Matthew Cross, stormed in, badge flashing. Where's Mr. Whitaker? Kyle pointed, trembling. Cross and his team unlocked the cell in seconds. Sam rose, nodding like they were pals. Apologies for the inconvenience, Cross said, reverence dripping from his words. No trouble at all, son, Sam replied, cool as ever. They whisked him out, ignoring Kyle and Reeves entirely. Another agent lingered, her gaze piercing. Any idea who you arrested? Kyle shook his head, ashamed. Samuel Whitaker, 5 classified combat theaters, counterterrorism, covert ops. A legend. His file's so secret I barely know it. Reeves rasped, why is he in a shack outside Millstone? She smiled faintly, some heroes choose silence over medals. Then she was gone. Kyle stood there, replaying it all, the cuffs, the shove, Sam's unshakable dignity. We treated him like a criminal, he choked out. Reeves pulled off his shades, looking ancient. We didn't even listen. That night, Kyle couldn't sleep, Sam's face haunted him, those words echoing, it's gonna be a long afternoon. Morning broke, and Millstone buzzed like a hornet's nest. Whispers flew, diner chatter, sidewalk rumors, church murmurs. An old man arrested, FBI swooping in, what was real? Kyle sat at the desk, coffee cold, guilt gnawing. Sam hadn't fought, hadn't raged, he'd let them cuff him, a titan among ants. The door jingled, and a woman stepped in, late 30s, jeans, brown jacket, leather satchel. I'm looking for the officers who arrested Samuel Whitaker, she said, firm. That's us, Reeves replied warily. Dr. Evelyn Carter, VA Special Services, she announced, flashing a badge. Kyle's stomach dropped. Mr. Whitaker's in a protected program for covert operatives. What you did was dangerous, for him, for you. Kyle croaked, we didn't know. That's the problem, she said, eyes boring into him. You didn't ask. Dr. Carter's gaze pierced through Kyle like a winter wind, sharp and unrelenting. Mr. Whitaker isn't just a veteran, she said, her voice steady but heavy with meaning. He's part of a secured federal program for retired covert operatives. His status? Protected by national security measures so strict they'd make your head spin. What you did yesterday, she paused, her eyes narrowing as if weighing the enormity of it all. It was dangerous. Not just for you, not just for this little station, but for him. Can you even grasp that? Kyle's throat tightened, a lump forming so fast he could barely swallow. We didn't know, he croaked, the words sounding pitiful even to himself. How could they have? That's the problem, Officer Morgan, Dr. Carter replied, her tone softening but cutting deeper for it. You didn't even ask. Not a single question. The silence that followed was suffocating, pressing down on Kyle like a physical weight. What could he say? What could anyone say to that? Dr. Carter didn't wait for him to fumble an excuse. She set her leather satchel on the counter with a slow, deliberate thud that echoed in the quiet room. Oh, the tension in that moment. She opened it, revealing a stack of files, each one stamped "Top Secret" in bold, angry red letters that screamed importance. She slid one forward, unopened, letting it sit there like a silent accusation. This, she said, tapping it lightly, is Mr. Whitaker's federal classification. You're not authorized to peek inside, don't even dream of it. But know this, he's been awarded citations so secret they don't officially exist. He served in missions that, if they ever leaked, would shake the nation to its core. How's that for a wake-up call? Kyle's head spun, the room tilting as her words sank in. Everything they'd done yesterday, every careless shove, every snide remark, every second they treated Sam like some petty crook, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal. A punch to the gut of a man who'd given everything. His stomach churned. How could he have been so blind? Why's he here? Reeves finally rasped, his voice rough like gravel, breaking the spell of Kyle's spiraling thoughts. In Millstone, of all places. Dr. Carter's stern face softened, just a flicker, but enough to hint at the humanity beneath her steel. Because heroes like him don't crave the spotlight. Can you imagine? They don't want parades or medals pinned to their chests. They want peace. A quiet life where the world leaves them alone. She took a deep breath, her eyes distant for a heartbeat. Whitaker saved lives you'll never hear about, countless souls spared from chaos. He stopped wars that never made the headlines. And now? All he asks is a shred of dignity. Isn't that the least he deserves? She snapped the satchel shut with a careful precision that felt almost ceremonial. Consider this a professional courtesy, she continued, her voice firm again. No formal charges, no lawsuits, lucky you. But don't think you're off the hook. The federal government's got its eyes on this station now, watching every move. Better step carefully. Kyle nodded, numb, his mind a storm of guilt and disbelief. Dr. Carter turned to leave, her boots clicking against the worn floor, but then she hesitated. Oh, what a moment. She glanced back over her shoulder, her voice dropping to something softer, almost tender. Officer Morgan, she said. Yes, ma'am. His reply was barely a whisper, his heart pounding. She offered a small, sad smile that hit him like a punch. Not every lesson comes with a second chance. This one? You might want to use it well. Don't waste it. And with that, she was gone, leaving behind only the faint scent of old leather and a silence so heavy it could crush a man. Kyle sank back into his chair, staring at that unopened file folder, a forbidden Pandora's box he'd never crack. The weight of it all crashed over him like a tidal wave. Not just the guilt, oh, that was bad enough, but the stunning realization that true heroes didn't beg for applause. They didn't strut around in capes. They walked among us, quiet and unseen, and we fools barely noticed until we'd nearly trampled them. How humbling was that? 2 days later, Millstone seemed to hum along as usual on the surface, business as usual, right? But oh, how deceptive that was. Kyle felt the shift in his bones. It was there in the cautious side glances folks shot at the police cruisers now, in the hushed whispers that died the second he stepped near, in the quiet judgment flickering in the eyes of old veterans perched outside the diner. Not anger, not even resentment, just disappointment. And good Lord, didn't that sting worse than any shouting match ever could? He couldn't undo the past, wouldn't that be a miracle, but he couldn't ignore it either. So, on his next day off, Kyle made a choice that felt both terrifying and inevitable. He climbed into his cruiser and drove out past the edge of town, where the road twisted narrow and wild, the woods thickening into a green fortress, the houses fading into fields and stillness. There, nestled under a slope of whispering pines, stood a small, weathered cabin, Samuel Whitaker's sanctuary. He parked a respectful distance away, his heart hammering as he walked the final stretch, boots crunching over gravel and pine needles. Could he really face this man? As he neared, he saw Sam on the porch, rocking gently in an old chair that creaked like a lullaby, a battered book resting in his lap. Had he known Kyle would come? Sam looked up long before Kyle reached the steps, his eyes calm, not surprised, not angry, just steady as stone. "Mr. Whitaker," Kyle said, voice low, hat clutched in his hands like a shield. He felt every bit the rookie, exposed and small. "You're braver than most coming out here," Sam replied, his tone light, almost playful. Was that a tease? Kyle swallowed hard, the words sticking. "I needed to apologize. In person. Face to face." Sam's lips twitched, oh, so close to a smile. "Then come on up, son. No need to holler from the driveway like a lost salesman." Kyle climbed the steps, each one heavier than the last, feeling the gravity of this moment in his marrow. When he reached the porch, he froze, unsure, should he sit? Stand? Flee? Sam spared him the agony, nodding to an old wooden chair across from his own. "Have a seat," he said, simple as that. Kyle sat, hands clasped tight between his knees, his knuckles white. For a long moment, they just sat there, the breeze rustling the trees, a crow cawing somewhere far off. Could silence ever feel this loud? Finally, Kyle forced the words out. "I didn't listen," he said, voice cracking. "I assumed the worst. I treated you like you hadn't earned any better. How could I have been so wrong?" Sam studied him, quiet and thoughtful. "You were doing your job as you understood it," he said, calm as ever. "It's easy to judge from the outside, isn't it?" Kyle shook his head, fierce and fast. "No. That's not good enough. I should have done better." Another pause, the air thick with unspoken things. Sam leaned back, the chair groaning under him. "Son," he said, slow and deliberate, "the truth is, I've been judged worse by men who knew more, and I've forgiven better men than you for bigger mistakes. Life's a messy thing." Kyle blinked, stunned. Was that forgiveness he heard? Sam's gaze held steady, warm but firm. "I don't hold grudges," he said. "Life's too short, and frankly, too precious for that nonsense." Kyle exhaled, a knot in his chest loosening, just a little, but oh, what a relief. "Still," he pressed, "I need to earn back the trust one lost. I have to." Sam chuckled softly, a sound so faint it nearly vanished in the wind. "That's the thing about trust," he said. "You can't demand it, can you? You can only live in a way that deserves it. That's the trick." Kyle nodded, those words sinking deep, carving a path he'd follow for years. They sat there longer, talking about nothing and everything, fishing trips gone hilariously wrong, stubborn tractors that refused to start, leaky roofs that defied repair. Simple life stuff. And Kyle listened, really listened, maybe for the first time in forever. As the sun dipped low, painting the world in golden streaks, Kyle realized something profound: respect isn't owed by titles or badges. It's earned in the quiet way a man carries himself when no one's looking. And Samuel Whitaker? Oh, he carried himself with the weight of 1,000 untold stories, stories Kyle vowed to be worthy of, one day at a time. When he stood to leave, Sam clasped his shoulder, firm and steady. "Don't beat yourself up forever, son," he said. "Just be better tomorrow than you were yesterday. That's all any of us can do." Kyle's throat tightened, emotion choking him. "Thank you, sir," he managed. Sam waved him off with mock sternness. "Now go on, before I make you chop firewood to pay off your penance." Kyle laughed, a real, honest laugh that felt like sunlight breaking through clouds, and tipped his hat before heading back down the path. The setting sun bathed everything in gold as he walked away, his heart lighter than it had been in days. It wasn't full redemption, not yet, but it was a start. And sometimes, isn't that enough? 1 week later, the unexpected crashed into Millstone like a thunderclap. The morning shift at the station dragged on, slow as molasses. Kyle hunched over paperwork, his mind drifting back to that porch, those words. The door creaked open, the bell jangling tiredly. Same old, right? Wrong. Kyle looked up and froze. A man stood there in full military dress uniform, not some casual visitor, but a general. Silver-haired, broad-shouldered, medals glinting like stars against his dark green jacket. Behind him, 2 younger men, also in uniform, stood rigid, faces unreadable. What on earth was happening? Sergeant Reeves emerged from his office, swagger gone, stiffening like a soldier caught off guard. The general scanned the room with an intensity that made Kyle's skin prickle. Could he feel the scrutiny in his soul? Finally, those eyes locked on him. The general strode forward, each step deliberate, echoing purpose. At the desk, he removed his hat with slow respect. "Officer Morgan," he rumbled, voice deep as a canyon. "I'm Major General Clayton Ross, retired." Kyle shot up, nearly toppling his chair. "Sir," he stammered. "How can I help you?" Ross smiled, a tight, knowing curve. "I believe you already have," he said. What did that even mean? Kyle blinked, lost. The general reached into his coat and pulled out a small, velvet-lined box, setting it on the desk with a soft thud that felt like fate landing. "Open it," Ross said. With trembling fingers, Kyle flipped it open. Inside gleamed a military challenge coin, engraved with a single, haunting phrase, "For lessons learned in silence." His throat closed up. What a gesture. Ross nodded. "Mr. Whitaker asked that this be delivered personally. He wanted you to understand something." Kyle swallowed, voice barely there. "Understand what, sir?" The general's face softened, just a touch. "That mistakes don't define a man," he said. "But how he answers them does. Isn't that a truth worth holding?" Something cracked open in Kyle, a pressure he hadn't known he carried, flooding him with gratitude and awe. Ross straightened, hat back on. "And one more thing," he added. "You're being reassigned." Kyle's heart leapt. "Reassigned?" "The Department of Veteran Affairs requested you for a special liaison program," Ross said, "working directly with retired veterans, people like Sam." "What an honor, right?" Kyle's jaw dropped. I don't know what to say." "Then say yes," Ross replied, a rare, full smile breaking through. "Yes, sir." Kyle said, standing taller, a new strength anchoring him. Ross gave a sharp nod and turned to leave, pausing at the door. "And Officer Morgan," he called back, "welcome to the side of history no one talks about, but that matters most. What a place to be." Then he was gone, sunlight swallowing him and his escorts. The station fell silent, a reverent hush. Reeves let out a low whistle, clapping Kyle's back. "Kid, you just stepped into something bigger than this whole town. How's that feel?" Kyle smiled quietly, tucking the coin into his pocket. He didn't need fanfare or headlines. He just needed to be better, day by day. Because out there, men like Samuel Whitaker still walked, silent and unseen, bearing the weight of sacrifices we'd never fathom. And now, Kyle would dedicate his career to honoring them, one quiet, heartfelt act at a time. Not for glory, not for praise, but because it was right. Because some debts can't be repaid, just carried forward with humility and heart. And isn't the greatest tribute to a hero simply to listen? In our darkest moments, kindness still finds a way, often in the quietest corners. Not everyone who helps craves recognition, some just want to know that today, someone's life is a little brighter. And sometimes, that alone can change everything. This story hit me hard, a raw, emotional gut punch that lingers. It's about regret, redemption, and the quiet heroism of people like Sam, a veteran whose strength shines through humility and forgiveness. Kyle's journey, soaked in guilt and self-reflection, mirrors a truth I feel deeply: we're all capable of screwing up, but it's what we do after that defines us. I'm moved by the idea that second chances aren't just possible, they're essential. People deserve the space to grow, to make amends, and to find their way back. What stirs me most, though, is the respect owed to veterans. Sam's character reminds me of the countless men and women who've served, sacrificed, and returned to a world that often looks past them. It's shameful how society can ignore their contributions, brushing them under the rug like forgotten relics. I feel a burning need for better support, tangible, real support, not just empty salutes. These heroes deserve more than our fleeting gratitude, they deserve our action. On a broader level, this tale screams empathy to me. Jumping to conclusions, like Kyle did, poisons understanding. I've seen it in my own life, snap judgments that unravel into regret. We need to listen, to ask questions, to care. This applies everywhere: law enforcement, communities, even our daily interactions. The emotional shift from somber reflection to hopeful redemption in the story fills me with optimism. It's a call to wake up, to do better. So, what's my take? I'm passionate about honoring those who've served, fiercely believe in redemption, and ache for a world where empathy trumps haste. How can we keep growing if we don't give each other, and ourselves, that chance? You might forget this story, but if no one retells it, history stays silent forever. Subscribe to Heartfelt Gratitude Stories, where justice is honored, kindness is remembered, and no quiet heroism is ever lost.